All right. Well, welcome back to the Giessen Brothers Podcast. Let me shut that door. Today we have our second guest. Finally, it's been I know you're busy, and I appreciate you coming out here. I think I contacted you 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming out. This is Zach, by the way. Zach, I'm gonna butcher your last name, Sorrentino, right?
Sorrentino.
Yeah. So that's okay. All right, perfect. Sorrentino. Anyway, so Zach is in mainly real estate, I believe. And again, I don't like to say too much about the guests because I'd rather you guys explain everything and tell everybody where you're at and how you got there. So I guess we'll just start with, first of all, you have a pretty interesting story because you are originally from up here, right? And you live a couple hours away now, right? But when you were up here, what were your plans? Did you think you would be where you're at today?
Not necessarily. I feel like I've always been the entrepreneur, and had that kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to navigate those paths and find the right people, the right career path, and all of that has always been a challenge.
Yeah.
And so when I first started, I was, way back before I got into real estate, I worked on cars. So I had a
Yes.
car business for like 3 years with one of my good friends and partners.
How old were you when you were doing that?
I'm horrible with timelines. So I've been doing real estate now since the end of 2019. So
Okay.
so I'd say 2016 is when I started doing the car business.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. And so I did that for about 3 years, and got really burnt out, and the amount of time, energy I'd take it out on my family, working late, and not making much money and stuff like that. And so
What was the car business?
so we worked on, it was a performance shop. So we
Okay.
specialized in like the Mustangs. And so we did everything you could think of to Mustangs. So, and
Gotcha.
we specialized in Fords mainly. So that's really what we did.
Okay.
We didn't touch anything other than Fords.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was super fun, and I met a lot of great people.
Okay.
But again, yeah, like turning a hobby into a business, it kind of got to that point where it didn't feel like a hobby anymore. And I'd get home, never want to do anything that I enjoyed. So I was like, you know what, I think I just need to take a step away from that
Yep.
and find something more lucrative, where I can have a job that makes great money to do the hobby that I like.
And that was all here locally, right?
I was down in
Oh, so
Hernando.
you had already moved down there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you move down there from here?
Well, actually, I didn't live up here.
Oh, no?
I did say yes, but I didn't live up here. Yeah. I was born and raised down in Hernando County. So I've always lived in Florida.
Okay, then how, I guess, never mind. I thought you went to high school with the people up here, but I guess you just met them through car shows or something.
Yeah, so I met Ollie and them, through car stuff.
Yeah,
So, like,
that's what I thought. Okay.
during the car business time, right? We had the Mustangs, and so we'd be all over the place. I'd be up in Ocala almost every weekend. We'd be over on the East Coast, over in Daytona,
Right.
down in, like Weston and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
That's really how I got the relationships up here, is because, I mean, the Mustang I had, I bought brand new, and I had over 100,000 miles on it in like 2.5 years. Like I would just
Damn, you were moving.
drive everywhere, yeah. And so building the relationships, and at like right in that time, it was right around like I worked at Publix actually full time before I got into the car business.
man.
And so that's when I was working at Publix, I would travel because I had a little extra cash, before I got into the business and didn't really make much money.
Yep.
But that's how I got a lot of the relationships up here, because I
Okay.
was always back and forth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you said you were tired of, like you said, you mixed the hobby with the business, so
Yeah.
it became no longer fun, especially when it's as stressful as it is, trying to operate the business as well as do what you love.
Right. And especially in a service-based business, I'm sure, as you guys know, right?
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
wants everything cheaper and faster.
Yeah.
That's all they care about. And
That's
so
it. Yeah.
it got to the point where it was just, too overwhelming, and it wasn't really what I was enjoying doing anymore. And
Yep.
so I was like, you know what? It's time for a change.
Okay. So what was your next step? How did you make the transition?
Yeah, so through that business, I was able to meet a couple other people, and my business partner Josh at the time, right? He was in real estate before we got into cars together.
Oh, okay.
Into that business, and so he actually introduced me to a couple people in Tampa that was actively doing real estate, and so I ended up building a relationship with them, right? And as I got towards the end of my career, I guess, working on cars and stuff like that. I reconnected with a couple of those people that were in real estate. And so
Okay.
it was like almost perfect timing, because as I was wanting to get back into it, Brandon, my business partner that I ended up going into business with, he was leaving his marketing company and wanted to get back into real estate full time too. So it
Perfect.
kind of worked out where he had a lot of the resources and knowledge, and I was getting into it, and I had the work ethic, and the time to put in. So I ended up leaving the car business like cold turkey. Alyssa, my wife, thankfully she had a good job where she had some income, and she's like, I can afford to pay our bills for a couple months with just my income. So if you're miserable here, why don't you just go do real estate if that's really what you want to do?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because we'll get to what she's doing now.
Yeah.
What was she doing at the time?
So at the time, she worked for a company where she would cold call, and she would sell like software to mechanic shops. So
Interesting.
it was like all the service-based stuff where they record and keep track of everything. And so it was like online sales, right?
So,
Essentially.
but it was a sale, so she was like commission based.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
It was salary plus a commission.
Okay.
So that's where it worked out really well.
Yeah.
And so I'd come home in a bad mood every day, and she would get upset, or I'd take it out on her, and it just didn't work out. And so she was all for me,
Yeah.
finding a new spot. And
Get rid of that.
yeah, and because of that, that kind of had me a lot more motivated and driven, because for my wife to say, you know what, go try something new and take the risk, and I got us, that was huge for me. So it's almost like you can't fail if you have that opportunity, right? You got to grind and make it work.
Yeah, it's important to note too that you two were not married at the time.
No, yeah.
Yeah, you were just. How long had you been dating at that time?
I'd say maybe a couple years. Like we ended up she wanted to buy a house, which was crazy. So we were dating still, and I was like, let's wait till like the end of the year. It was probably around like March or May time. I was like, let's wait till the end of the year. It gets a little bit slower for work, and I want to be home, and getting the house ready.
Yep.
And of course, how women are. They're like, oh, well, I'll just start looking.
Yeah,
I'll
and
start
then
looking right now.
found something they loved. And
Yep. Which hindsight 2020, was a blessing, because we bought our house,
before COVID.
before code. Yeah, we paid 125 for a brand new updated 2.2 up in Hernando County, which was perfect. I was
Yep.
like, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
First house we ever looked at. It was the first house we bought.
Same thing that I did. That's awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah, you weren't so lucky,
I
huh?
was not so lucky.
no.
How many houses did you look at before you ended
Too
up?
many.
Too many?
Too many.
Yeah, you had a nightmare of a problem getting your VA financing and stuff, which is something else to note. We've only ever purchased homes VA.
Yeah.
How did you purchase that home?
That home, the first house, I wasn't even on the mortgage.
But it was a
It
conventional.
was FHA financing.
Oh, FHA. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your down? Did you have 0% or did you get like 3?
I think we did 3.5% down.
Okay, so that's not too bad.
Yeah.
So for those wondering, like you can buy a house, without having to go 20% down.
100%. Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, and the funny part actually is that house wasn't even the home was in mine and her name, but the mortgage was just in her name, because being a business owner,
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
don't have any income to
I
show.
didn't have a W-2 income, right?
And good thing she had that salary, because they don't usually like commission.
Right.
So.
And so it was huge, and within like 2 months, I got my first deal with cold calling in the real estate space, and I think I made like $5,000. And I was like, it was my reality check.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I may not know everything I'm doing, but I can still do a deal even with not knowing everything.
All right. So let's your first real estate company.
Yep.
What did that look like? You had a partner. What were your guys's
Yeah, so I call him my business partner, but really I came in more of as an acquisitions person, right? So learning the side of wholesaling and being an investor, finding off-market distressed properties.
Yep.
And so for me, I came in as commission only, so I didn't have a salary. So
Yeah,
it was just
again.
eat what you kill, right?
Yep.
And so for me, I started getting on the phone. So I had a script, to outline where I wanted the conversation to go about the home, the property, their scenario, their motivation or distress.
Yep.
And I would just from 7:30 in the morning to 6, I would just hammer the phone. I'd make around 300 to like 400 dials a day. Now, out of those, I may talk to 20 people.
Yeah.
And out of those 20 people, 18 will say pound sand.
Yeah.
Other 2 may say I'm interested or call me back in a month.
Yeah.
And so really that's like how the first few months started, is like you just have to build your pipeline, which a lot of people expect to get the cherry on top deal. Call someone, they're like, yeah, I need to sell right now for $100,000 less. And that's really not the case,
Oh no.
Like you may find one a year that's like that, where you just call it the perfect time and they're ready.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's follow-up, rapport building, trust, and you have to touch them a few times before they're ready. And so I was just doing that. Probably, yeah, I mean, cold calling has always been probably our biggest lead source even today. That's really the only marketing we do other than like word of mouth outreach and stuff like that and just networking.
Yeah.
But doing that for about 2 months, I got my first deal. And then what's funny actually is Alyssa, she was like, I could tell she was getting kind of burnt out and beat up at her job too, where she was doing really good, but the KPIs of the organization kept changing on her.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard for her to plan it out and be driven to show up.
Right.
And so I was just like, you know what? We have the least amount of bills we'll ever have. We don't have kids. We have a dog, like we have the least amount of responsibilities. I'm like, why don't you just leave? She wanted to get into real estate too. I'm like, why don't you just come work with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so sure enough, like 2-3 weeks went by and she's like, yeah, let's just do it. And so we had a little bit of money saved from the deal I did and her income.
Yep.
And so she jumped out of that, and I joke, within 2 days she had her first deal under contract.
No way.
For me, I was kind of salty. I'm like, what'd you do better than I did? Or
How long did it take you again?
like 2 months.
2 months to get
Yeah.
your first deal.
With the caveat, because like this is what I do all day, like train on phone sales. Like
Yeah.
she came from a sales job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's funny.
Like
True. Fair enough. She was already in the business.
she was in the business.
Yeah.
That's good. I didn't
I'm
even.
just like, like, dang, like, I've been working and calling. And,
Oh, I've been there, man.
You
Just
know?
the cold calling for months and just having nothing.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the moment you see it actually come to fruition,
Yeah.
it
It's like,
happens.
I'm sold.
It's
Like
addicting.
you're sold at that point. But
Yeah.
then you also have the people who come in 1 day, 2 days, they do, and you're like,
Right. Like,
what is
what the
this?
heck? Yeah.
Well, this is not fair.
Yeah. Like, you sure that's
You
a
know
deal?
what? You know what? You copied it from me. That's
Right,
what happened.
right.
here.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what happened here.
That's
Yeah.
that's great. So how long had you been with him before your wife joined?
I would only say maybe a month or two. Yeah.
Yeah. So right after your first deal.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, because she got burnt out, and I saw what happened to me in the other business.
you
I'm
didn't
like,
want-
I don't want that to happen to her. So
gotcha. Okay. So you guys were mainly wholesaling. Is that what you said?
yeah, so we came in mainly wholesaling. It was at that time like right before COVID hit, and so it was kind of a weird time in the market where we had the private funding, we had the investors, we had the rehab crews to do the work. But as far as like locking deals up and closing on them to rehab them, we didn't really know where the market was going to go over the next 6 to 8 months, right?
Right.
And so we stuck to wholesaling a lot more. We built a lot of good buyer relationships and stuff like that where, it got to the point we were just selling our wholesale deals to a handful of investors.
Yeah. Perfect.
What I found is that there's so many buyers, but they don't trust everyone, and
Yep.
fair enough, they shouldn't, right?
Exactly.
But once you sell a property to someone and they make money on it, they trust you and they want to buy more from you.
Right.
And so it's like if you can just sell them one, it's way easier to sell them others, right, and do more deals.
Absolutely.
And that's where I've always came in on, like, I'm not a greedy guy. I don't need to make every penny on a deal. I'd rather sell you a deal and you have a great win because I know you're going to be calling me for the next one. Right?
Exactly.
And so it's way more long-term relationships, which is what I like to do and think about, but not everyone does. So
No, and that's a great point to make because a lot of people, like you said, are just looking, and a lot of wholesalers now that I deal with or that I see, they're getting a property for $70,000 and trying to sell it for $150.
Yeah.
Right. And then they'll tell you, hey, I ran the numbers. It's only a $30,000 remod, and then it's $250,
Yeah.
comp, and like no. Okay, first of all, I don't know who did your numbers,
Right.
right? Like,
if that's such a great deal, why don't you close on it at 70?
there you go. Yeah.
And
For
it's
$250.
like, why don't you just continue to rehab it then?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
like these wholesalers are trying to rip everybody off to make all the money on one deal.
Yeah.
When, like you said, it's in my opinion, a better business plan to, look for the long-term relationships because you're going to make more and you're going to sleep better at night. That's the main thing for me.
And truthfully, like now being in the business a little bit longer, what I found is like, in a way, it's not even about us. Like we help homeowners in distress situations, right? They
Right.
have problems they need solved, right? And if we can help them solve their problem, it's usually a win.
I love it. So it's so much correlation in between different industries. Like in insurance sales,
Mhm.
like what you just said is so true.
Yeah.
It hits home because that's literally what we try to teach long-term relationship. If you just go short-term, you're only bound to make 1 or 2 deals
Right.
because no one's going to trust you.
End of the deal.
And you have to be able to think about solving people's problems.
Right.
If you can't solve someone's problem, you shouldn't even be there.
Yeah.
If you're only there for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge.
That's big in any sales. Like
No,
if,
I know.
if you're looking to just make the money, you're not gonna do as well as the people who are there to help solve problems.
Yeah.
And Go ahead.
I mean, I feel like that's the struggle with new people getting into the business, right? Like new wholesalers, they just lock up a deal and go market it to everyone to see if they can sell it so they can make a quick 5 or 10 grand.
Commission
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah, but they don't realize that that homeowner now is packing their stuff up, looking for new houses, trying to make new decisions just for 2 weeks down the road because they said yes at way too high of a price and they just cancel it.
Yep.
Now this homeowner's out time, money, energy, probably stress,
Yep.
and
Exactly.
they don't care because yeah, they'll just walk away. But
Exactly.
They didn't have any skin in the game.
right, and that's the worst mindset to have in this business, and it's what
I
gives
agree.
us the bad name.
Yeah.
And the
Totally.
thing is, it's one of those things to where I look at the LTV of the client. So if you can make the client extremely happy, suffice them in all the realms, and it's a win-win-win,
Yeah.
they'll probably in the interim in the next 2-3 years, you're gonna get a referral.
100%.
So why not?
Right.
Why not keep that long-term relationship and build it from the beginning and not try to scalp it?
Right.
Makes no sense.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
So, how long did you do just acquisitions before you started? Because I know you branched out and started working on other things.
So I worked as an acquisitions person really until June of 2022.
So through COVID.
Yeah, and truthfully, knowing what I knew now, like we would have bought every house we had under contract because there was homes that we were worried
Dude,
about
rates.
making. Yeah, well,
Not
yeah,
the rates, the
Oh, okay.
value increase.
interest
Oh,
rates
yeah.
were low, so cheap money, so prices just kept going up, right? Because truthfully, during COVID, a lot of people were moving to Florida, right? We were pretty much
Still, yeah.
yeah, and we were pretty much fully open. You
Oh,
can do
yeah.
what you want, and so I feel like that drove a lot of demand here.
Totally.
But we were buying homes where we were estimating to make maybe like 40 grand and 60, 70. Like people were giving us 30, 40 grand over asking, and we were all just like, why?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Long-term play.
Yeah. And so it was just crazy. And so we were doing that until about 2022 during COVID. And then I ended up going out and starting to find my own properties, right? So I built a couple other relationships with funding, and I was still wholesaling like at the beginning when I stepped out of just acquisitions.
Mhm.
But through those relationships and everything, I started having more access to resources and things like that.
Right, right. And I know you, while you were still there, I think you had done a couple wholesale sale deals on your own, right?
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I did a few when I was working there, like maybe a couple, and then like between the like June of 2022 and back, we probably did 80 deals between those couple years.
Yeah.
So we were jamming. We had a really good private lender where we were able to have a couple million out on properties, so it gave us a lot of buying power.
Yep.
On top of it, we were able to close in like 3 days if we needed to.
Perfect.
So that gave us a great leverage when you're talking with a distressed homeowner.
Totally, totally.
And so, and the crazy part too with the trending up market is we were buying stuff fairly quickly, but even if we sat on it for a month or two waiting for our crews to get ready, yeah, it went up in value too, right? So it kind of was good, but it kind of was like a blessing and a curse because I feel like that drove a lot of new people to try and get into it too.
You're
because
right.
It was real easy money, right?
Yep.
And now we've seen, since really when I started like June of 2022 to now, I've seen a lot of investors fall off, because rates are high. People are thinking it's harder to find deals. There's less investors buying right now.
Yep.
So I feel like it's kind of pushed a lot of the fake people out, which has been good. But I would say like in 2023, I did 18 deals.
And that was on your own.
I was on my own, yeah.
Okay.
I
And was that wholesale, flips,
That was
or
that was a mix of mainly wholesaling, and I think I did 3 flips in last year.
okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
majority of it was wholesaling.
Yeah, yeah, perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. So you were with that company until 2022, and then there was another company, right, that started up that you were a part of.
Yeah, so when me and Brandon first started, we had really good traction. We worked really great together. And so we had an organization out in California called New Wealth Advisors Club.
Okay.
And so me and Brandon had the idea of we have this big office space here in Tampa. Let's open something where it could be a collaborative workspace for people who want to get into real estate, that want to learn real estate, and also have a full real estate operation running upstairs.
Yep.
And so we started working on that back in like 2021. And so we released it in 2022. We got everything going. And then there were some hiccups, some, bumpy road and everything. And so I ended up, stepping into just doing it myself. And then I was working with New Wealth Advisors Club. So I was a coach. So I was helping new members who were joining the club learn about wholesaling, real estate investing as a whole, flipping, buying rental properties, getting funding, and we had a lot of resources and leverage of training with New Wealth Advisors Club.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that for, really since 2021 is when we started getting everything together for it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I started working with them, and it's really good. I have no bad things to say about them. For me, like we were talking a little bit earlier, it just got to the point for me where real estate's my full-time thing now, right? Like that is my primary income.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to invest a ton of time and energy without getting a return per se, and it's
Yeah.
not always about money, right?
Right.
No, it's not.
But right.
But
The headspace it takes and the time, energy, or like giving to people where they just take, and then disappear, it started taking a toll on my personal health, my headspace, my marriage.
Right,
I
right.
get burnt out. I didn't want to do anything at all. Like I'd never answer a phone call, nothing. And so
yeah.
I got to the point where I'm like, you know what, I need to make a change and just kind of change that. So, like I said, a few weeks ago, I actually stepped away from there just to kind of get my head back in the right space.
Yeah, yeah. Focus on, like you said, it's not always about money, but there is a certain point
Right.
when you're giving all this time and you're taking away from the things that are producing income.
Right.
For nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Well, not nothing, but next to nothing.
Right.
And it's wasted time because the people aren't, appreciative. They're not reciprocating, and
Right.
so I understand that completely. I've been through that.
Yeah. And that's the tough part, because when you work with people for so long, you care about them, you have friendships, relationships, so it isn't necessarily about the money, and it makes it a harder decision to make ultimately, too, because of it.
But a necessary one.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because I know myself and probably a bunch of people listening to this have held on to certain things for so long.
Yeah.
Because of the relationships. You want to be known as, I can help those guys. I'm the one that you can go to, and but again, at a certain point, it takes a toll, and you realize that once you step away from all that, it's the best thing for you and your family.
Right.
And that's what's most important.
Yeah.
Is not necessarily those relationships that aren't returning anything to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's like, if you're not good, how can you show up to be good for someone else?
That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That is huge. Absolutely.
Because that's what I've always said too, even to a lot of people, is like, I've done over 100 deals now in the past 4 years of doing real estate, but I've only been in real estate for 4 years. I have so much to learn and so much to grow still that, yes, I know probably 70% of what that goes around in real estate, right?
Yep.
But still, I still want to grow and learn more too. So it's hard for me to not feel confident per se, but feel like willing enough or like confident enough that everything I say to you is accurate, right? And
Right.
sorry.
No problem.
Everything is accurate, and I'm guiding you in the right direction. And now I know most of it is the right thing, but again, I'm still learning too. So I don't want to take this position as a coach per se to give back to other people when I'm still trying to learn more stuff and absorb more things.
It's a little bit of the imposter syndrome, huh?
Yeah.
Where you are definitely capable of coaching
Right.
a ton of, like, the knowledge that you have and the experience that you have is far greater than most.
Yeah.
But like me as a contractor, I still don't feel like I should be,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be helping other contractors. Like I'm not the professional.
Right.
I'm on the flip side of you guys.
Yeah. Well, I would love to hear your input too, because that's one of the things I do struggle with.
Yeah.
Teaching and training people is my passion. So that's what I love to do. And for me, I only train on the subjects that I am truly confident on.
Yeah.
So like, it sounds like you're really good at wholesaling.
Yeah.
I would only train on wholesaling. I wouldn't even talk about rentals if you never did rentals.
Yeah.
That's where that space in your head, you're like, I shouldn't be here. I'm that imposter syndrome.
Right.
Like, for me, I stick to IULs. I teach IULs. I don't teach anything other than IULs because IULs is what I know.
Right.
There's multiple realms within my industry, but I pick one and I stay there.
Yeah.
I can sell annuities. I can sell mortgage protection.
Right.
IULs.
Just stay in your lane.
So I stay in my lane and I don't break from it. Am I still a student of the game in those other industries?
Yeah.
100%, because I still have so much to learn,
Yeah.
but I only teach in what I know,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's, you're right too, because we've done probably over within the acquisitions company and me doing it now, we've probably done over 30 flips as well. And during COVID, when it was cheap money, we were buying a ton of rentals on like creative finance deals, right? So taking over homeowners' mortgages or having mortgages with the homeowner. So like really flips, rentals, wholesaling, I have a very good grasp on all of that stuff. And I don't know maybe if it is imposter syndrome more than maybe my want to learn more myself is what's,
A block.
yeah, because I want to keep learning and learning and learning, and
As you
coaching.
should.
Yeah, and coaching, I can coach on what I know, but at the same time, like I want to keep absorbing more too. So if I'm coaching and teaching more people, am I focusing on learning and growing more skills, right? And that's
Right.
probably comes back to more time management and, running a business, coaching other people, running an organization here in Tampa, right? To give back to those people and doing all this other stuff.
You burn out.
It's a lot.
Burn
Yeah.
out. Oh, trust me, I understand that. And just trying to do too many.
Yeah, too many littles at once, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I mean, again, I completely agree because I do. You like to help people.
Yeah.
I like to help people. And like he said, his passion is teaching, and I mean, honestly, same thing. If I could just go out and tell people, how to do things, it would be great.
Yeah.
But I still have that in the back of my head too, where like I want, there's people that are doing it better. I'm not them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So why should I be teaching somebody else? That's where my thought process is. And I know like in your space, there probably aren't too many people doing it better. So it's
No.
it's it's different. The feelings that we have are a little bit different than what you have because you spent I don't even know, countless hours. I mean, you did the whole 10,000 hour thing in like, a couple of months. Like he just didn't sleep for months and just went all in on this.
You're an animal.
Yeah. So we didn't do that. So that's, and again, there's people that are doing it better and they will. Go ahead.
So the difference is this. I'm wildly confident in my skill set and my ability to train because where I got the information from.
Right.
If you look at where most people get their information from, it's other people's word of mouth, other people's presentations. I didn't take any of that to heart, to word. I went and found the actual literature inside the IRS and found the hard information. So the only way that it could be wrong is if I interpreted it wrong,
Mm-hmm.
which I knew was not the case.
Yeah.
Because I tested it and tested it and tested it month after month after month to make sure what I was saying was right.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You put that 10,000 hours in no time. Like you you did 10,000 hours straight. I don't think there was a break. So
Right.
and that's all I was saying was again there is somebody that's doing it better than me and there always will be. And that's what I want. I want to learn from them,
Yeah. I don't want to be the smartest in the room.
No.
Right.
I want to keep going. Like I don't want to be the best at anything. I want to keep finding new people, new ways and growing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So totally. So anyway, you do that. You just left that club. You said a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But the other company that you were doing the acquisitions for, when did you leave that one?
I would say, I think December of 22 is when I fully stepped out of that. So I was
Right.
doing my own company and working on the acquisition side for about 6 months.
Okay.
From like June of 22 to December.
So all of 2023, anything outside of the advisors club that you were part of, any deal that you did was just with yourself and
Yeah.
your wife
Now,
because
I
your
would-
wife left.
Yeah, all those deals I was finding, or we had a couple members from, like, let's say the club, they would bring a lead that they needed help with. I'd partner with them on it.
Gotcha.
Right? So the thing with that is I was taking all the responsibility and risk. So I would walk them through everything, but the agreement would be in my name. The funding I would get,
Yep.
and I would be backing the funding. Right, all the contracting and resources I would bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Right. But yeah, we did about 18 of them, and I had certain partners here and there, right? Like, for example, there was one we did at the end of 23 that was a rehab that we were doing. It was a probate property where we had to take care of the probate for the homeowner, and it was a complex probate.
So what is probate? Because most people listening to this aren't
Yeah.
going to know.
So probate is when someone owns a property or owns something and they pass away and there's no will in place. So
Exactly.
you have to go through probate with an attorney to outline the heirs of the property or the assets that they have, and then all of the heirs has to be in agreement and work together, and then it will get transferred over.
Which
to the name.
rarely ever happens.
Yeah.
Yes. It's terrible.
It's crazy how money changes family.
Oh yeah,
It's-
yeah, absolutely.
It's all I did. Yes, it's
Yeah.
insane.
Yep.
It is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
so we had this property. He actually called in from one of our bandit signs. We buy houses, and said, "Hey, my home is in foreclosure. My wife passed away. We've been together for 18 years, but we never were legally married. And so Florida isn't a common law state, right?
yep.
So he's like, the home was in her name, not his. The mortgage was in her name, not his. And he was in foreclosure because she passed away, and he kind of just got in a rut.
Yeah.
And so the complex part was technically because they weren't married, he doesn't get the house.
Right.
He's not an heir of her, right? So
Mhm.
the heirs of her were their 3 kids, which all were under the age of 18. So they weren't legally able to take the home.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so we had to do a ton of stuff. I have a great attorney up in Jacksonville who handles all of our probate, and we ended up getting all the kids just the right amount of money where we didn't have to have a conservatorship and all this other stuff that we had to go through. But we ended up buying that. We paid $280 for it, and I had one private lender come in and fund the purchase of it, so $280 plus our closing costs, and then I had a partner bring the other $85 that we were going to put into the rehab of the home.
Okay.
So we split profits because they brought some of the funding, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so that project took 90 days from the time we closed on it to buy it to rehab to close selling it. And
Yep.
So it was a very quick turnaround time.
Yeah.
And we ended up selling that one for $409. It was
Nice.
like a 4.2 pool home. It was like 2,300 square feet. So it was a really big house too. But our crews, right? We have a great relationship. We've been working with them for a while, so they're super quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do what you want.
Right. Yeah, which is a big part of it, right? Because like you were saying too, Alyssa, my wife, she started designing homes and designing our remodels, which is really cool. And she's done really well. Where it's like, at the end of the day, they are flips, right? So we're not doing luxury $700,000-$800,000 homes, right? We stick in the affordable housing price point. So picking the right floor at the right price point, or just more of the quick and timely and in budget, right? Like one of the things me and her go back and forth on is she likes the smaller tiles in like the showers, and I'm like, that costs so much on labor and time.
Does. Yep.
Like pick a 12 by 24 tile, and it
The
takes
biggest you can do.
yeah, it takes half the
Well,
time.
No, don't do too big, because too big gets even more expensive.
Really?
So like my showers, I did 24 by 48.
Yeah,
Good luck getting somebody to install that for a normal price. That is a
They're so
nightmare.
big.
They
Yeah.
need 3 people just to lift it.
Exactly.
Really?
And then you need like so
You just
I
do one slab for your back wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
that's good.
they do that cultured marble and stuff, and they do some pretty cool designs with that stuff now. But anyway, those tiles, I got them because I always liked the big,
Yeah.
large format tiles. I thought it looked cool, and I was like, this will go way faster. It's just hanging 4 pieces of tile.
Right? How hard could it be?
And then you find out that every single tile has to be cut somehow.
Really?
And you need a huge machine to cut those big tile.
To have the whole thing flat.
Because so like I get these tiles and I think I'll just hang them on the wall, but then I realize the ones on the floor have to be cut to match the slope. The one against the wall's got to be cut. And then after that, after those first 2 pieces, everything else has a shower head in it. You know what I mean? Or a
A little pinhole.
yeah, so I had every single one took some prep work, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So it is way more expensive to install large format tile
That's why we
versus
pay people like him.
That's
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah,
send
so
me the
you
bill.
so 12 by 12, 12 by 24 is
Yeah.
definitely the most affordable. And you want to stay away from the matte tiles,
Mhm.
which I'm sure you've run into this, where you're putting those down and then you can see, where the seams are because somebody didn't line them up right.
Yep.
So it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wanted to mention that too because you guys are doing flips, and like you said, you're doing them in the affordable range, and there's a budget involved. And most people that are doing flips are going in, grabbing the cheapest light fixtures from Lowe's, putting those up. They're grabbing standard sheet mirrors, putting those up. Yeah, the cheapest granite or laminate countertops, cheap cabinets, and then the 1 mil vinyl flooring.
480.
That
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly.
that if there's a piece of sand under it, you can feel it,
Yep.
You guys, because your wife is now designing, not only does she bring that luxury feel to it, but stays within budget. You guys are doing something amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try. I don't know how, and I don't know how this is going to work out yet, but I'm going to try and link like a page to her page,
Yeah.
so that they can see some of your guys' stuff,
Perfect.
because it is absolutely amazing. Like I love I literally yesterday was like, I need to have her come in and design the studio for us.
Yeah,
Like
she would
just
love to.
put a couple of things, do what needs to be done, because I was at the furniture store going, I'm not Joanna Gaines. This isn't going to work.
She does something really good. I thought it was cool when I first saw her do it, but she'll take like a mood board and she'll put like all the colors and like the
Right.
tile, the backsplash, the vanity, all of it in like one picture, so you can see how they all mesh together.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you like it, what she'll do is she'll just send you a link of everything, like from Home Depot. Here's the link to that mirror, or here's the link
Exactly.
to the counter. Or, that way it's just super easy and simple. And that's really worked well for our contractors too, right? Because we just have the whole list of links of everything from, okay, if you want Home Depot or Sherman-Williams paint, here's everything. So it's just quick, that way
Yep.
we're not driving there and going over everything. And 'cause
That's awesome.
the house in St. Pete, it takes an hour and 15 minutes to get there from
Exactly.
my house. Like I don't go there every day, but so it's just real good. And having that communication with our contractors has been really good.
Awesome. So yeah, so last year you did, how many flips have you done so far this year? We're only on month 4,
3.
and you're
We closed on 1, and then we have 2, like I was saying, 1 finishing today, and then 1 probably in about 30 days will be done.
Yep. So what's that like? There's a bunch of parts to this. So working with your wife
Yep.
full time, because this is your full time job, both of you. She does designing for other people too, but like you guys are both doing this together.
Yep.
B, managing your subcontractors. Do you have one crew that does everything? Are you hitting multiple different crews? Like you said, there's one project that's an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
What's that look like? And then, kind of break down. I know you had got into one of the ones that you just closed on or something, had a bunch of issues with it.
I'll tell you that one.
Yeah, so I want to hear, how do you navigate those things?
So working with Alyssa full time, I mean, we've been working together since 2020. And so at first it was definitely a balance and a dance, to get used to it. And
Just
now
seeing each other all the time.
yeah, right. Like, and that was actually a big challenge for me because it's like she'd be like, I want to spend time with you. And I'm like, we see each other every day, all day. What do you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a big difference of spending time together at work and spending quality time together.
Right.
Right. So that's been a good differentiator that we've been good at. And so she's been doing the design stuff. She was doing staging a little bit too. And she just got a real estate license now.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So what's cool is she can help, being in the real estate investing side, she would be on the phone. She would cold call a lot and have those conversations, set appointments for me. She could run comps, she can make offers, all that stuff. She got a little burnt out with the cold calling. The cold calling is a high turnover thing.
It's not easy.
No, it's a lot of mental toughness and headspace, and
I go through sales reps every 3 to 6 months, so
Yeah.
it's
it's horrible, honestly, because again, you invest the time in, you train them up, you get them good, and then they disappear, right? And
Yeah.
so what we found is we have a virtual assistant now that we pay.
Okay.
She's a cold caller. She's out in the Philippines. We have in-house training and everything for her. So she's handling all of our cold calling. But so now with Alyssa doing our design stuff, that's helped a lot because she really talks to a lot of our contractors and makes sure they're on budget and timeline and everything. So for me, it helps because I can go out and continue to find new homes, right? I can go on appointments and speak to homeowners and things like that. And with our contractors, we have 3 different like crews that we work with. So all 3 of them are mainly like my general contractor, and they go get their subs, right? And a couple of them do all the work mainly themselves. So the one that we have in St. Pete, that crew we've been working with for a while, and so we have a really good relationship with them. They have about 3 people, but they're super quick. So they did that one, the 90-day turnaround at the end of 20.
Yep.
Yep.
Which was a 4-2. It's a big house.
Yeah, and then the one in Clearwater, the kind of crazy one, that took them 2 months to fully renovate that home, and that was a $97,000 rehab for an 1,100 square foot house.
Yeah.
For context, yeah, it was pretty bad.
1100 square.
Yeah, there was 6 holes in the roof. There was gas, lines.
You should have just
take out.
reframed it.
Well, it was concrete block, so it was good. It was a good structure.
Everything else.
Yeah,
You should just redid the whole roof structure.
but the lady was living in it still. So we bought it, and it was right around Christmas time, and she was like, can I get 30 days of post occupancy? And I bought it from another wholesaler, so I'm essentially accepting all of the terms they structured right when I buy it. I'm like, yeah, no problem. Can I at least put a new roof on it while you're living there? So like
It
they
doesn't
literally had a storage container in one of the rooms that was full of water, and you could see the tree branches just hanging out above. Yeah,
Wow.
it was so bad, and it was in Clearwater, the city of Clearwater, right? And there are sticklers. So
Of
Yep.
to
course.
give you a little background on that one is the homeowner passed away in 1998 in the house, right? Um, 2002 came around, there started being code violations on the home for an immobile car. Like the top garage pane was like caved in a little bit, and then the fence was falling down. So they reached out multiple times to the estate of her. No response, no response. Fast forward to like 2014, she's still getting code violations. The lady who got the house is basically telling them to pound sand. She's not going to do anything. 2016, more code violations. And then the probate was never done until November of 23 when I went to buy the house.
Holy crap!
So-
She died in '98.
Yeah. And so
Damn.
it just stayed in the estate of her this whole time. And then when I went to buy it, they took care of the probate. And so we bought it. We paid cash for it. I had a private lender come in and pay, lend on it. And it was like maybe the week before Christmas, I went out there and I checked the mailbox and there was a letter in there. And I opened it up and it said that my company was in foreclosure on the home that we just bought. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, we paid cash for it. There's no
Can't
mortgage.
foreclose, yeah.
Right. And so I called around. I called the city. And they said, yeah, there's about 3 or 4 code violations on the home. You owe about $785,000 in code violations. And I'm like, I paid $172,000 for this house.
Yeah.
Even fully updated, it's not even going to be worth half of that.
Right.
So, okay, like, what do I need to do to take care of it? Because the wholesaler never told me about the liens.
Yep.
And the title company issued me title insurance, so I know I'm protected at least there.
Right.
But they didn't even bring up the liens.
Exactly.
Right, and any smart title company would never issue title insurance for
Without
that
doing-
amount of liens, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so they're like, once you get the home into compliance, we have to issue what's called the application of reduction. So you have to basically apply to get that lien reduced. But everything has to be fixed before you can do that because we have to come out and check everything.
Yep.
And so through talking with a couple different people, it went from like 785,000 to when I went to the board meeting once everything was done, it was 1.08 million on fines.
Jeez.
Yeah, because from 2016, the immobile car was earning a $650 a day fine from
Damn.
2016 to when I bought it, which was like,
See, that's why it never hit probate because they were hoping someone would buy it and then this exact same thing would happen
yeah.
and no one would fight it.
And what's crazy is the homeowner made like 10 grand, the wholesaler made 80 grand, and then they wholesaled me the house. So
Yeah.
it's like they didn't tell me about it. They sold it to me. The seller only got X amount of dollars, and you're making all this money, And so
Bet you won't be doing business with him again.
full circle, right? We got through the whole project. I went to the board meeting. We got the home into compliance within 2 months of us working on it. I told they have to have what's called a quorum, so they have to have 4 of the 7 people there, so they
Yep.
can all make a decision. And I got the liens reduced from 1.1 million down to $3,200.
Oh,
I
thank
essentially told them I bought the house. I didn't know about them. We were very timely. We fixed everything within 60 days of our ownership. We already have it sold because we're under contract now to sell it to a VA
Yeah.
buyer
Yep.
who was pregnant, who wanted to move in like within a week of
Yeah.
being under contract. And now we had to wait 2 weeks to go to this board meeting. So it was like a whole mess, but ultimately the wholesaler and the title company ended up splitting that $3,200.
Good. There we
So I
go.
didn't have to pay it.
That's
yeah.
what I like to hear.
But the whole time it was high stress because I'm like, what happens if they say no?
Yeah, and then you're out.
Well,
$1
there's
million.
$1 million.
Right. Or they reduce it, but they reduce it to $100,000.
It's
right?
still not. Yeah,
It's
there
still,
goes
like,
all
a
the.
huge drop.
It's still a big.
Yeah. And even knowing that we had title insurance, and like we could have made a claim and it could have been taken care of, it's more time and energy,
Yeah, and then it delays your closings,
Right.
and you
Am I
can't
gonna
sell
lose
it.
that
Yeah.
buyer? I had to pay an extra $1,000 to have our buyer keep their rate because their rate lock, for their interest rate expired the day before the board meeting. And so to keep them happy and to keep them in it, I'm like, I guess I'll pay for it, another $1,000 we're spending on it. But ultimately, right, everyone was happy and it was still a great win. But
Still though.
yeah, it was
A lot of lessons learned.
Yeah. And again, like I can't complain about it. Like hindsight, I'm like looking at the deal at the beginning, I was like, why is no one buying this house? The profit is here. The numbers, at worst case, 100 grand of rehab, that they still make sense. We paid 172, we put 100 into it, and we sold it for 385.
Yeah.
So, and we had 8 showings and 3 offers within a day. So we know we priced it right and everything. But
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it was,
So you sold it for 385. My other question, before we get back into all that, is
yeah.
your financing terms. You said you have a private lender, and I assume it's like a main private lender that you're working with.
Yeah, I have 2 right now. So
Okay.
through them, I get around like $1 million to $1.5 million that I'm able to use. 2 points, 10% interest,
There we go.
and
That's what I was
I
wondering.
defer the payments until I sell it.
There you go.
So monthly, I'm not paying. It just accrues interest until we sell it, and then they get
Yeah.
their lump sum.
And so basically, it's 2 points. Do you want to explain points, because that's
Points
something?
is essentially a percentage, right? So 2 points is 2%. So
Yeah.
if I get lent $100,000, 2 points on 100 is $2,000.
Yep,
So I
exactly.
pay them $2,000 just for giving me the money.
Right.
And then they start accruing their interest.
Now, are they providing the money for both the purchase and the rehab?
Some do, yeah. It always depends on the property or the the purchase price, per se. Like this house in Spring Hill, I paid 85 grand for it. We have about 40 grand in rehab, so I borrowed about 140,000 for it. That was just one lender.
Yeah.
The house in Clearwater, I borrowed 260. That was also one lender.
Okay.
But then the one that I was telling you about in the end of 23 that we just closed, those had 2 lenders.
Yeah.
Actually 3. So we
Okay.
had one for 280, one for 50, and one for 35.
Perfect.
So the 280 was for the purchase price, and then the other 85 from the other 2 that handled our rehab.
And those other 2, are they the same terms?
Yeah. Sometimes I don't give 2 points if it's like a lower amount.
Obviously.
Yeah, and again, they're relationships I've built, right? So they're either friends and family. So like for example, I borrowed 15 grand because I needed a little bit more to like stage the home and to finish up the rehab, right? So I just gave my friend a flat fee of $1,500. So I paid him 10% on his money for 2 months of me holding his cash.
Yep.
Because to me, I'd rather give him $1,500. I literally can call him and say, "Hey, I need 15 grand," and it would be in my account by the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather just give them the extra money, right?
Yep.
If I'm gonna be worried about $1,000 on a deal, I probably shouldn't be doing that deal.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting to know. And these aren't, because a lot of people that may listen to this and say, "Wow, I didn't know that you could do all that."
Yeah.
These, like you said, friends and family is a good place to start. But finding those other lenders, you've been in the business successfully for 4 years. You built those relationships, so you have those contacts. But for those that aren't and don't have the opportunity to jump into a company like you had at first,
Yep.
how do you find those lenders?
I'll be honest, it's very hard to find lenders when you're starting off, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And the only reason I was been able to find those private lenders is because of my track record, right? Like my primary lender, the only reason he started lending is because I was telling him about the deals I've been involved in, the deals I've done, the kind of profits we were able to make. And he actually came in as a lender, and he's never been in real estate before. So the first deal you could say he's done was lending me 320,000 on the first flip we did together.
Yep.
Right, but he made over 25 grand lending on it.
Exactly.
Right, so, and I maybe do it a little bit differently, where some people just request money. Right, I show them a breakdown of the purchase price, the rehab cost, the sale price, the estimated profit, the amount of money they'll make. I send comps, right, of cash comparables of what's selling in the area in the same condition that I'm buying the house in, right?
Yep.
And then also I show them comparables of what we're going to sell it for at the end. So although they're not needed to be in the deal anything more than just giving me the money,
Yeah.
they can be as involved as they want. Right?
Exactly.
And through that's how I've got those couple lenders on the private side. I'll be honest, every time I try and use hard money, which is like Wall Street or institutional money,
Yeah.
it's always been just a big pain because
Right.
they want, like with a private lender, it's more of a relationship based. I can say, hey, I need 200 grand. You want to lend at 10% and 2 points? Yeah, sure, that's fine, right? And you can kind of go everything. When you go into like the institutional and hard money, it's I need an appraisal. I need your track record over the last 2 years, right? How many deals have you done? What's your credit? What's your collateral? All this other stuff starts tying into it, and it's usually 12% and 2 points, and then you're paying a monthly payment on it. So it just can be a little bit more of a pain. And so truthfully, I've used private money for mainly everything I've done versus hard money.
Awesome. That's a good point to make.
Yeah.
And it's very true. Hard money, and then, conventionally. You can do all this conventionally, but that's even worse.
Yeah, you just need more cash in your pocket, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, on pretty much every flip I do right now, I'm getting like 105% of the purchase and rehab lent to me. So the purchase, the closing costs, the rehab, and even like stuff like paying for the insurance and staging and closing costs is all covered in the funds I get, lent to me. So that's helped a ton. I'm bringing no money out of pocket to buy any of these homes.
Absolutely. And I would like to also mention that that is not normal.
No.
Okay,
No.
people, like
No.
you've gotta have some skin in the game. You gotta know what you're doing to make it to that point and have those relationships.
100%.
You don't start that way.
No. Yeah, like and what's crazy is I had a hard money lender I was talking to because me and Alyssa were looking at a house up in Georgia where my brother lives.
Mm-hmm.
It was 11 acres and it was like a 2,000 square foot house. And we had an offer accepted, and the hard money company said, yeah, we could fund it. We can fund the purchase and rehab. We'd rather do that. But because this is the first time we're doing it, we're going to give you 80% of what you're asking for, and we want 6 months of reserve payments in escrow.
Yep.
So not only we're going to have to bring, let's say,
20% down. Yeah.
40 grand at closing, but also we were going to have another like 40 in escrow just sitting
Exactly.
there to show that we could pay the payments, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it makes it so much harder. One, because what I've also found is when you only have a limited amount of cash, you're a little more selective on which homes you buy, right?
Absolutely.
Like I don't just jump at the $30,000 wholesale or the $30,000 flip profit. Let me look at a couple others because we may be able to make 50 on another, and I
Yep.
don't want to use that cash for this when I could deploy it here.
Exactly.
So that's been a little learning curve for me as well.
Awesome. So what's the cruise, managing the cruise? I think you did talk a little bit about that. So you're not permitting. How's that work? Are you doing any permitting?
Yep. Yeah. So our general contractors, they pull permits.
Okay, so you have actual licensed contractors,
Yeah.
because that's another thing I want to point out here in Florida is a lot of these guys will tell you that they're contractors, but they don't hold a license. They're just technically a handyman. They're not legally allowed to do all the work
Right.
that is required, especially if you've got holes in the roof.
Yeah.
There needs to be a licensed roofer and involved. And
And so, like my one GC, we sub out AC and electrical and roof, right? Like
Correct.
We can do that. So the one that we're doing in St. Pete and the Clearwater one was fairly simple. We subbed those out. But our other contractor, Dominic Tenari, he is actually one of my friends I grew up with. He's like 20, I think he's 23 right now, and he is a GC, and he's built about
Good for him.
16 new construction homes.
Yep.
And he's crushing it. And so we bought a house in Dade City, which is like a little town in Pasco. We bought a 1924 built home, and it wasn't a nightmare. It was just a lot of work. So all new plumbing, electrical, roof, AC, ductwork, the line from the power pole to the house, the plumbing from the city sewer into the home, everything had to be redone. And with it being a 100-year-old house and in a small little city of Dade City, the county and the building department were up our butt. Like
nightmares.
we had a dumpster in the front yard cleaning it out, and there was 3 of them already there at the house. Like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
All the neighbors are over. But with that, yeah, everything was permitted, engineered, final inspections, all that stuff.
Make sure if you're getting started to do that. Like, make sure you've got somebody that's licensed. Make sure you're pulling the permits, the necessary, going through all the necessary hoops, because if not, and you get shut down, they red tag, you can't sell, you can't do anything. You got to go back, pay all the fines and fees.
And usually undo the half the crap you did.
Exactly,
Because
they gotta look at it. It's all got to be inspected.
Yeah, like truthfully, in that Clearwater house, I closed in the garage door and we just put bricks in a nice window. Within a day, got the letter in the mail. Hey, $100 fine if you don't take care of it in 15 days.
Absolutely.
We had to take all the concrete back out, the window out that we did, and put a new garage back in.
Yep.
It's like little things like that.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, and like truthfully for us, I don't try to add bathrooms, bedrooms that often and stuff like that, because
that's expensive.
Yeah, and it's timely, like getting the inspection, passing it, final inspection, all that stuff, engineer to write it up. Everyone wants their money, so it costs more and it costs more time.
Yep.
So for us, just the quicker turnarounds is what we like to do.
Yeah, try to stick to, if you're removing walls, make sure they're not structural.
Yeah.
Paint, flooring, all that stuff, new fixtures, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, if you're adding or even moving some plumbing can be a nightmare. If you got to shift a toilet 2 feet, you'd be surprised at how much of a...
I'm not going in there with a chip and hammer.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like even I would say if anyone's looking to get into flipping right now, I would always have a couple extra opinions, from people
sure.
that are doing it. Because like that house in Dade City that we did where we had to do everything new, we started off saying 95 grand was going to be our rehab budget. We finished at 130 grand.
Yeah.
Right now, luckily with our experience, we bought it correctly. Right. So we still made money, even being 40 grand or 30 grand over budget. But someone new may say, oh, like this only needs a normal update and a roof and AC. And then you get in and it has plaster walls, it has old wiring, and you have to rewire the whole home, like
Yeah.
all that stuff. And there's an extra 10 grand right there just on electrical. Oh, all new plumbing, an extra 10 grand, like it adds up so quickly where one, if you have hard money too, you can't just go say, hey, can I get 30 more grand?
Yeah. That's
No,
it.
they want to see your licensed GC with draw schedules and everything
Yep.
completed before they release the next draw. So it's very particular.
Yeah.
Where, I'm just getting all of the purchase and rehab funds
Up
and,
front.
and I discretionary can give it to our contractors.
Again, that is, I mean, that is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that you have that going on, because it is next to impossible to find that.
Yeah.
Especially now,
Yeah.
With everything that's going on.
And
so.
truthfully, there's been 1 or 2 deals where I've given some of my profit to them too. Like I give 10% of the net profit if I sell it for over the number I'm thinking. Yeah,
long-term relationships.
right. Because if it costs me an extra $6,000, let's say, or $5,000, like that means I'm making 50 or
Yeah.
60 if I'm giving you 10% of the net profit.
Exactly.
No one's going to be mad about giving 5 to make 50.
And guess what they're going to do next time you ask for money?
Yeah.
Give it to you.
They're actually going to come to you and say, "Hey, when do you need more money?"
Yeah.
Like that's how that works.
That is exactly how it happened with our Spring Hill property. I'm looking at this home. My mom owns a landscaping company, right? And so she's been mowing this home for probably 12 years. And the homeowner who lived there, she had dementia and she got sick and she ended up passing away. And I knew her son, and he was just going to let the home go back to the bank because he didn't have the money to do probate and he didn't have any knowledge on what to do. And so I was blowing him up and I said, hey, like, let me help you. I can probably get you some cash in your pocket. And so I paid for the whole probate. We got the mortgage payoff and it was around like $50,000. And I said, it's a small 2-bedroom, 1-bath, like 800 square feet. I could probably get you 85 grand for it because I need to renovate it, do AC inside, and I'm probably going to keep it as a rental. Right. And
Yep.
It's like, okay, great. So we ended up closing on it. And so in conversation with one of my lenders, I was telling him about this deal I had from, my family and everything. He's like, oh, let me know when you're ready. I'll lend on that one. Like I didn't even ask him to lend the money on it. He just knew it was
Yep.
a good deal and I want to get
in.
involved. Right.
Awesome.
And that's exactly right. If you give a little bit more, the relationships are always there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Super great. All right. So I guess last question that I got is, how are you operating this like a business, right? So there's got to be some behind the scenes things that are happening when you get your payout, right? Say you're making $50,000 on a house.
Yep.
Are you setting money aside for taxes? Because it doesn't sound like you have any long-term rentals. You're not depreciating
I have
things.
one. So I bought one last year. And then that's actually more of the great conversation. It's pushed me more to go buy more rentals, right?
shit.
Like this house in Spring Hill, we can sell it and probably make 70 grand, or we can refinance it, still maybe pull a little bit of cash out. We may not cash flow a lot, but long-term thinking, it's a great asset and depreciation. And all this other
You
stuff.
can write off. You get a better write-off for taxes. So
Right.
for now, though, is that what you're doing? Are you setting money aside immediately, or are you just?
Yeah, so me and Alyssa, the tough part for us too was like it never was really an issue until I would say really last year when we started making,
Oh yeah.
more money. And I'm like, well, now I kind of have to think about that more, because I struggled. I'm like, I don't even know how much money we really have because of taxes and all this other
Yeah,
stuff.
yep.
And so we have like a family fund that we have X amount in. And then, every month or every deal we put money away for taxes.
Awesome.
Also, last year I got a CPA as well now. So that helps a lot too, where
Important.
where we'll probably put me on like a W-2 income to help
Offset.
offset the taxes a little bit too. So
Super
that's
cool.
something super new to me though as well, because I don't want to get screwed, but I also need to know how much money we actually have.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it makes it hard to make other decisions,
Right, right. Because those, I mean, it's not cheap. Taxes on gains from real estate is
No.
not.
And what I think too with our flips and everything, that's considered short-term gains.
It's ordinary income.
So the only time you have capital gains is if I think you keep it for longer than a year, you have to hold it for over 2 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And so that's thankfully we've been lucky because 90% of our flips are done within 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quicker turnaround, and then obviously wholesaling, we're not actually buying it, so that helps too.
Yep.
But rentals. At the end of the day, right? We all want to get paid and sleep every day if we could, I guess, right?
Right.
By having the passive income.
Yeah.
And that's our ultimate goal. My goal was maybe to pick three more rentals up this year. And I wanted to do at least 12 flips this year. So have one flip every month.
Yeah.
So that's pushed me to, I need to buy 2 or 3 2 months before they're ready to actually be started because the rollover, right? It takes 2 or 3 months to finish them and list them and things like that.
Yeah, and now that you've left that other company, you've got, your head's in the right space, you'll be able to probably maximize your efficiency as far as, time with the business goes.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that'll.
I'm at a weird crossroad. Like the past couple weeks, I've kind of taken it a little more lighter and trying to game plan a little bit more, right, on what not the next steps are, because it's always going to be real estate, but where am I going to go, right? And because flips, like we were talking about, wholesaling, let's say on a process map, wholesaling is, let's say, 60 steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Flipping is like 280 steps. So it's just way more complex and it is way more stressful, to be honest, too, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like you can make more money, but you also could lose a lot more money. There was a wholesale deal last year where I wholesaled a quadplex and I made $55,000 wholesaling a quadplex.
Mm-hmm.
That house in Dade City, right, that I was telling you about, the 1924 built home, I think after paying our members out and everyone else that needed to be paid, I only made $5,000, and that deal took 7 months to rehab.
Yep.
Right. So it's like, it's a give and take as well. But yeah, it's I'm still navigating.
Yeah, you're learning. You learn something new on every deal, and that.
Right.
I mean, same thing with me. Every single house I build, something new. I learn something new.
And maybe that's why I'm okay with not making every penny. Like if everyone's winning and we're still making some and I'm still learning, for me it's more like, let's keep turning and burning. Let's keep going.
Yep.
I don't want to get tied up on $3,000 on this house. Let's just sell it and go buy another one.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. You got any last questions or anything?
No, you've asked a bunch of them.
Yeah, I try.
I'm an open book,
That's great, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your sharing the process. And honestly, I mean, we could talk for another 3 hours, which we probably will have you back on at some point.
Anytime.
Yeah.
It only took me an hour to get up here from my house. So
yeah, that's actually very surprising.
Me and Alyssa were thinking, we're like, because last time when we came up here, right, when you finished building it, I'm like, it took us, I want to say, almost 2 hours to get here. And then I'm like, we lived at the old house, which was already 40 minutes away.
Yep.
And then we had the Tesla, so we stopped and charged in Ocala. I'm like, there's the extra time.
Gotcha.
So.
That's crazy though that you're only an hour. Because I know, I mean, I was building that storage down there, and it takes me about an hour to get down there.
Yeah.
And that's further south than your house,
right.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like another 15 minutes or something.
Yeah. So awesome. Good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely have you back on because I do want to dive more into, finding the deals, structuring them, all that stuff. But this was great. Actually, one other thing. I'm pointing over there. I don't know why. I don't have the book over there. But have you ever read Profit First?
I haven't
by
yet.
Mac? You need to look into that one.
Okay.
That'll help you set up your and talk to your CPA about it. But that I implemented that process into my contracting business.
Yeah.
And it is a game changer as
Really?
far as managing the money
Okay.
and making sure that you're not worried about taxes and this and that.
Yeah.
Super great book. I would definitely look into that.
Okay.
But anyway,
100%. I need to.
yeah, it's great. So anyway, other than that, we'll definitely probably have you back on. I don't know how. I do have other guests finally scheduled. So in the next couple of weeks, we got a couple people.
Yeah.
But we'll probably check in with you maybe after. You said you're finishing up one now, and then you got another one that you're 30 days or 60 days or something like that.
30 days out. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll check in with you July timeframe because we're next month. I've got another baby that's born next month, and
Congrats.
thanks. And then we're gone pretty much all of June for a wedding in New York.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll touch base in July. That'd be really
perfect.
cool to see where you're at with those, and then again, maybe go further in depth on finding the deals and all that.
Yeah, we can definitely dive into how I'm finding the leads, the conversations, the software that I use.
Absolutely. I want to know how all that operates.
Yeah.
This was a good intro, though, and I really appreciate you coming all the way up here.
Of course. Thanks for
So,
having me.
yeah, definitely. Anything else? No? You got anything else you want to add before we leave?
I don't think so. I appreciate you guys having me. It was good to get on and talk with you
Yeah,
guys.
thanks for coming out to the first studio in my bedroom.
I think it worked out great.
No, yeah, I think so. I think it'll be all right for another month or two. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. And guys, hopefully, I mean, this is one of my favorites so far. Every time we have a guest on, which has only been twice so far, it's been the best. So, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Perfect.